The silence was the first thing. No car horns, no laughter, no distant sirens, just a vast, empty quiet. I woke up, heart thudding, a cold sweat clinging to me. Bad dream. Had to be. But the apartment was too still. Looked out the window. Deserted street. Cars abandoned mid-traffic. Newspapers scattered like fallen leaves. Where was everyone? Phone, dead, television, static. Growing unease, twisting in my gut. Something was very, very wrong. Spent the first few hours in a daze. Checking on neighbors, calling out, hoping for an answer. Nothing, empty apartments, vacant eyes staring from family photos on the walls. A wave of dizziness, the world was tilting, reality fracturing. Collapsing on my couch, the full weight of it hit me. I was alone, the last man on earth. Days blurred into an endless cycle of scavenging and survival. Each morning I woke up to the same desolate landscape, the same empty streets and the same haunting silence. The world had become a ghost of its former self, and I was its lone inhabitant. Empty supermarkets became my personal pantry. I wandered through the aisles, once bustling with life, now eerily quiet. The shelves, though sparse, held the remnants of a world that once was. Canned goods, bottled water, anything to keep me going. Each item I found was a small victory, a lifeline in a sea of desolation. Learned to hotwire cars, picking my way through deserted streets, searching for resources. The skill became second nature, a necessity in this new world. Every vehicle was a potential escape, a means to explore further. Shelter shifted from abandoned apartments to sprawling empty mansions. Each new place offered a different kind of solitude, a different echo of the past, a fleeting sense of luxury in a world stripped bare. The opulence of these empty mansions was a stark contrast to the emptiness that filled them. The silence was a constant companion. It was a heavy, oppressive silence that seemed to swallow every sound, every whisper of life. The absence of human voices deafening. Tried to keep busy. I filled my days with tasks, anything to keep my mind occupied, to stave off the crushing loneliness. Read every book I could find, losing myself in stories of other worlds, other times. The words on the pages were a refuge, a temporary escape from my reality. Powered up generators, watched old movies on flickering screens. The familiar faces and voices were a bittersweet comfort, a reminder of what once was. Ghosts dancing on the wall, their laughter a painful reminder of what I'd lost. The echoes of their joy contrasted sharply with the silence that now filled my world. But the nights were the hardest. The darkness brought with it a profound sense of isolation, a reminder of my solitary existence. The silence stretched, a vast echo chamber of loneliness. Each step I took seemed to reverberate endlessly, a reminder of the emptiness around me. Staring at the stars, I felt a terrifying smallness. The vastness of the universe was a stark contrast to my tiny, solitary world, a single heartbeat in the face of oblivion. In the grand scheme of things, I was just a fleeting moment, a solitary figure in an endless expanse. The loneliness was a physical ache, a constant pressure in my chest. I began talking to myself just to hear a human voice. Held imaginary conversations with loved ones, the sound of their voices, a fading echo in my memory. Haunted by dreams, faces of strangers, their eyes pleading, accusing. The guilt was a heavy weight. Why me? Why was I spared? Rational thought warred with creeping paranoia. Was I really alone? Or was something else out there, watching, waiting? The silence became a torment. Every creak of the floorboard, every rustle of wind in the trees, sent my heart racing. The line between reality and delusion blurred. I started seeing things, hearing things, phantom whispers in the dead of night. The world started to feel like a faded photograph, colors leaching away with each passing day. My reflection in the mirror became a stranger, eyes haunted, beard overgrown. Was I still human if there was no one left to recognize me? Started leaving messages, spray-painted messages on freeway overpasses, giant SOS signals on rooftops visible from the sky, a desperate plea into the void, hoping against hope for a response. But the only answer was the wind whistling through abandoned buildings, the echo of my own footsteps in the empty streets. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something, someone to break the silence. And then one day something did. It started with a flicker on a radio I'd managed to scavenge. The static was relentless, a constant reminder of the silence that had enveloped the world. But then, amidst the white noise, there was a flicker, a hint of something more. static resolving into a burst of music, a woman's voice, faint but clear. It was like a beacon in the darkness, a sign that I wasn't alone. The melody was haunting, yet beautiful, and the voice, though faint, was unmistakably human. My heart hammered in my chest. The realization that someone else might be out there broadcasting this signal filled me with a mix of hope and fear. What if it was a trap? But what if it wasn't? Could it be? Was someone out there? The questions swirled in my mind, each one more urgent than the last. I had to find out. I had to know if I was truly alone in this desolate world. Days turned into weeks, the signal coming and going. Each time it faded, my heart sank, but when it returned, it was like a lifeline. I clung to it, desperate for any sign of life. Frantically, I triangulated the source, poring over maps, adrenaline surging through me. I traced the signal's origin, my fingers trembling with anticipation. Every clue, every hint brought me closer to the truth. Hope, once a fragile ember, roared back to life. The journey was perilous. I knew the risks, but the thought of finding another human being, someone to share this burden with, was worth any danger. Roads were choked with abandoned vehicles, buildings crumbling around me. The world was a shadow of its former self, but I pressed on, driven by the promise of connection. But the thought of another human being, someone to share the burden of this new world with, spurred me onward. Each step was a testament to my determination, my refusal to give up. The signal led me to a small town nestled at the foot of a mountain range. It was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hold your breath. But the signal was stronger here, more insistent. The closer I got, the stronger the signal became. Anticipation warred with fear. What would I find? Another survivor or something else? The possibilities were endless, and each one filled me with a mix of dread and excitement. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The town was eerily silent, buildings shrouded in shadows. The streets, once bustling with life, now lay empty, echoing the whispers of a forgotten past. But the radio signal was strong now, guiding me towards a weather-beaten building on the outskirts of town. Each step I took felt heavier, laden with the weight of uncertainty and hope. A hand-painted sign hung askew, "Welcome to Radio Free Hope." The paint was chipped, but the message was clear, a beacon in the desolation. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. The rusted metal was cold to the touch, sending a shiver down my spine. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open, the hinges groaning in protest. The sound echoed through the empty halls, a ghostly reminder of the life that once thrived here. The air inside was stale, filled with the musty scent of old paper and dust. Shelves lined with forgotten books and scattered papers told stories of a bygone era, and then I heard it. A cough, a chair scraping against the floor. The faint sounds were a stark contrast to the overwhelming silence. My heart pounded in my ears as I stepped into the dim interior. The darkness seemed to close in around me, amplifying every sound, every heartbeat. There, in the flickering light of a kerosene lamp, sat a woman. The soft glow cast long shadows, dancing on the walls like silent specters. She was older, her face etched with worry. But her eyes were bright with intelligence. They seemed to pierce through the darkness, searching for answers. She looked up as I entered, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. The surprise in her eyes mirrored my own, a shared moment of unexpected connection. For a moment, we just stared at each other, two souls adrift in a sea of silence. The weight of unspoken words hung heavy in the air, a silent testament to the journey that had brought us here. The words, when they came, tumbled out in a rush, explanations, questions, a torrent of emotions we both struggled to contain. Her name was Anna, a scientist who had been working on a remote research station when the world changed. We were both broken in our own ways, scarred by the loneliness and the loss, but there was a shared understanding in our eyes, a recognition of the profound strangeness of our situation. We were no longer alone. The days that followed were a blur of shared stories and tentative hope. We pooled our resources, learning to rely on each other for strength and support. The silence, once deafening, was now punctuated by the sound of our voices, the simple act of conversation, a balm for our battered souls. With companionship came a renewed sense of purpose. We began to rebuild, clearing debris, planting crops, our hands calloused but sure. We salvaged what we could from the ruins of the old world, piecing together a semblance of normalcy in a world turned upside down. We explored abandoned libraries, marveling at the knowledge contained within their dusty volumes. We watched old movies under the stars, the flickering images a reminder of the beauty and the fragility of human creation. And slowly, tentatively, we began to hope again, hope for a future, however uncertain, hope for a world where the echoes of laughter would one day fill the silence. But the past had a way of casting long, lingering shadows. There were nights when the silence would press in, threatening to suffocate us completely. Nights when the memories of loved ones lost would surface, raw and painfully vivid. We learned to lean on each other. Finding solace in shared grief and mutual understanding, we built a fire, a beacon in the darkness, a symbol of our determination to survive, to persevere together. The world was a harsh and unforgiving place, but we were tougher than we ever thought. We had faced the abyss and emerged, changed but not broken, stronger than before. As the seasons changed, so did we. We learned to adapt, to survive, to find moments of joy in the smallest of things, a sunrise over a field of wildflowers, the sound of rain on a tin roof, the simple pleasure of a shared meal. We were no longer defined by what we had lost, but by what we had found. In each other we had discovered a reason to hope, a reason to keep going. The world may have ended, but our story was just beginning. Standing on that rooftop, gazing out at the vast expanse of stars, I no longer felt alone. The silence was no longer a void, but a canvas upon which we would write our own story. We were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, our survival, a beacon of hope in a world shrouded in darkness. The echo of our existence would resonate long after we were gone, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable loss, the human spirit could endure. The future was uncertain, but we would face it together, for in the end all we had was each other, and that was more than enough.